How worth it is it to buy or use smothering tithe? That's what we're discussing here in this video for today. So quickly, this is a new thing that I want to try to do here on the channel and assess some of these EDH staples that you see a lot out there. Not just from their playability standpoint, but also their price point and their usefulness in different decks. So we're going to discuss lots of different cards in this series. We're starting with Smothering Tithe, so let's get on into it. But just before we get into the video for today, if you are enjoying the content that I'm putting out there, please do consider subscribing, turning on that notifications. It really helps us out. But with that being said, let's get right on into the video for today. Alrighty, so we're getting on into the discussion here for today about Smothering Tithe and how worth it is to own stroke play this card. And yeah, it is certainly a card in playability. It does depend what your deck's sort of doing to a small degree, but honestly, if you have wheels, obviously it's really good because a lot of times people can't pay for the two, and I find that a lot of people can pay for the two during games, but a lot of times people won't pay for the two because hey, they want to cast their spells, so you just get free treasures sometimes and things like that. So it is very useful in that sense. It can be very useful no matter what, even if you're not abusing it with wheels. It can be very powerful of a card. So that is why it sees so much, play. It is so good for certain strategies and whatnot. If you're in an enchantment deck, I would say that it is definitely, a pickup because, hey, well, I'm running enchantments. This is an enchantment, so it goes along with the rest of the theme. Though it often, to me, feels like a card that I wouldn't put in green decks. Though I see a lot of people put it into their, Sethith decks and whatnot and other enchantment decks that have green in them. Though I don't know whether you 100% need it in those sorts of decks, but it can be really powerful, certainly. I don't know how much more value you would get out of something else. I'm not too sure. So it is quite interesting to figure out what would be more useful, perhaps, in that way. If you're forcing your opponents to draw cards in some way that you can also make sure that they sort of can't pay for or whatever, is also another thing that you could take into account, but that is also a very difficult sort of area to get into. But again, it does depend. Like, if you're in mono white, obviously you probably will take this no matter what because, hey, you know what? I need as much help as what I can kind of get, even though white isn't the worst color anymore, just in my opinion. But still, you don't have, as much as what green has in terms of ramp. You don't have, you don't want to have these other artifacts that sort of, 3 or 4 mana and don't really net you anything, throughout the rest of the game. Treasures are incredibly busted and incredibly useful in the game. And if you have some sort of treasure synergy as well, hey, well, this is another great card to pick up from that point of view. So there's lots and lots of positives on the playability side. It's the price point that I think stumps a lot of people from playing this card. And a reprint would be nice. Perhaps it will be in Double Masters that hasn't been revealed yet, and perhaps it will be revealed after I've recorded this episode, but I don't know that at this point. But still, a $42 card isn't the most expensive card, and that's on Card Kingdom right now, and that is USD price there. So, that isn't the most expensive card that you could get out there, but it is certainly a pretty penny, to say the least, for one card. And, it is one of those cards that you could skip if you're in certain colors and in certain decks. You wouldn't 100% need it. It's not like you'd be super thrilled not to have it to a degree. But again, like I say, I don't know how valuable it is in certain decks like Sethis, I'm unsure. I think that honestly, perhaps there are some cards that probably wouldn't perform as well in a sense as getting you so much treasure when people don't pay. But it would be more consistent with you not needing to be able to, well, that person did pay and that person did pay. And it is sort of taxing on them in that sense. But I don't know. It's just one of those things that I don't know whether that's 100% that useful. It does slow people down. So I don't know. It is sort of like hard to assess that how much, that actually gets you ahead or that actually helps you, because with those enchantment decks, a lot of the time you are in a slower sort of deck, so slowing your opponents down does seem like it is, helpful to that extent. So if you're forcing them to choose between not giving you treasures and paying 2 mana, then it might be more useful than what I initially think about how good it is in those sorts of specific strategies, because, again, it's sort of one of those cards where it's kind of like, well, the value of treasures is the main thing you're using it for, and if you're just using it for the main value of treasures, there's other things that you could be using to get mana more efficiently and whatnot than what this does. But it's just the taxing effect could be much more, I guess, more mana, because you're actually kind of getting 3 mana for each 1 mana that you're getting, in a sense. So that's an interesting way to look at it, certainly. But beyond that, I would say back to the price point is as I said, the greatest hurdle. And as I said, it's not the most money that you can spend on a Magic card, but for a staple card, it's hard to say that you wouldn't want to use this card, because it is one of those really great, powerful cards in the format. So it's just coming down to your own personal budget and your own personal um, set of decks, and again, synergies and strategies of what you're trying to do, because you want to take the most advantage of this card. If you're going to splurge, $40 on this card, and that's a fair amount for you. I mean, if you're a millionaire, or if you've got, a lot of money to burn into this format, then that's a bit different. Then you might be like, well, $50 is basically, nothing but sneezing for me. But for other people, it's a fair whack of cash, especially for one card. And how effective it will be for them will be dependent on what deck it goes in, what synergies, what strategies they are playing. So you really want to put it in the place that it will do the most work for you, so that you can feel like you're getting the most value for your buck when you do buy this card. You don't want to just slide it into a deck willy-nilly and then be like, well, you know what, this really isn't doing a whole lot for me, because my deck really isn't built around either enchantments, treasures, both, or just, free value or taxing or whatever. Or my deck isn't a slow deck, it's a fast deck, so I really need to take, advantage of this incredibly quickly and get, a whole bunch of mana off of it right away. Because if I do, I can do even more things and get even more mana and keep going, going, going. And then I actually, will do something and, be so far ahead that either I will win or I have won or whatever. So it is all about the, looking at your own personal deck and deciding, is that the right choice for you? And that's kind of where I'm at as well in some cases with this. And I've said that, I don't know how good it is in the Sethis, and I have my own Sethis deck, and in enchantment decks like that, because I'm in green. So I'm like, well, this is an enchantment, so I could take advantage of it being an enchantment. And I don't know how much other value it would give me, but it would tax my opponents, certainly. And that's kind of what I'm saying, like I've been assessing this card for myself a little bit and thinking, well, is it worth me spending, $40 on this card? Or do I get, a 50 cent to a dollar card that maybe does something sort of similar, gives me some mana each turn, and, it might be worth it. So I just don't know. It's just one of those things. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this one. Uh, Discussing smothering tithe and how worth it is to put into your decks. And I think smothering tithe is one of those cards that, sort of was the foreshadowing of like what we were going to get in these last few years, because it really epitomizes a lot of the things that EDH has sort of become since RTR2 or RTR3, Return to Ravnica, War of the Spark era Magic, where we started, getting this huge power creep of stuff going on and whatnot. But anyway, that is maybe a bit of a discussion for another day as well. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about Smothering Tide. Tell me what decks you maybe want to put it in, or whatever you want to tell me down there in the comments below. I'll be sure to respond to any comments that you do put down in there, and see what you guys have to say. And yeah, but if I don't see you down there in those comments, I'll see you in the next one.